Alright, for our internet data analysis, we're going to use Ubuntu Server version 2004 and Python version 2.7. So first we need to set up our virtual environment. For that we create a directory. We go inside that directory and with Python command we set up the virtual environment, and after that we need to activate our virtual environment, and you can see that on the prompt. So now we are available to install all the packages that we need. We start with Pandas. It seems that everything is going to go well. Yes, it is. Then we install Jupyter Notebook application. But as you will see, we're going to have an error message. So that is why the next time I guess it is better to use Anaconda installation, which it has all the packages that we need for any data analysis like Pandas, Jupyter, and so on. But anyways, we decided to keep going with the installation. We did Jupyter Notebook installation for a second time. It went well. And then now we are installing matplotlib package. We need to say pip install matplotlib. So everything goes well with this package, and finally we make sure that we have all that we need, especially with Jupyter Notebook, because we had an error message. So it is there, the version 1.0.0, and then Pandas 1.2.4, and finally matplotlib. Okay, now it is time to download the ping utility from my GitHub. The name of the file is ping version 4. The link you can see in my blog post. The file at first is not executable, so we need to convert that file as an executable. So for that we use the gmod command a+x ping version 4, that's .sh, and now that file is executable. Alright, now we need to edit our ping utility according to our needs. So we edit with the B editor, and inside the file we need to change the variable host for whatever host we need to ping. In this case we're trying to 8.8.8.8, and also we need the path to our ping utility in the directory variable. We save those changes for the file with write and quit command on the V editor. We make sure that the utility is working. As you can see, it is not, because the file is in the Windows format, and that's why we have that error. So we need to convert the executable file in Linux format. So for that we use set ff file format equal to Unix inside the V editor. We do that and we save the changes, and now we try it again, and it seems that it is working. So we list the directory and we can see that it was created a new file, and when we see inside that file we have all the internet analysis that we need. So that's a basic step to make sure that our ping utility is working for our special case. For everybody will be different. So now what we need to do in this case, we need to program to execute this file every time the computer reboots. For that, we're going to use the Contrap application on Linux. So I'm checking what is the path for my file. Then I go inside the Contrap file Linux. So I use inside that the reboot command, and I make sure that the path to the file, it is the one that I need. And then in this nano editor, I save the changes. And now I just, I'm gonna make sure that the contract task is correctly set up. And now to finally check that everything is working fine, we just need to reboot the computer. Okay, the computer has been restarted, and now we need to make sure that the ping utility is working according as we need. So we check the file that was created, and especially the last lines, they should change according time passed through. That is happening, so we're okay. Now we need to set up again our virtual environment. Just we need to activate it in order to use Panda, specific in order to start our Jupyter Notebook. But the difference here is the Jupyter Notebook is going to be in our server, but we're going to execute in our local computer. So we need from here the token that we see on the screen. Now we are on PowerShell Windows to connect to our server on Ubuntu. We use our credentials through the protocol SSH. Our user is Flash, and we introduce the respective IP address. And the connection has been done. Now we are introducing our password. Okay, time to have fun with the Jupyter Notebook. So we need to copy the value given by the server Ubuntu, HTTP, localhost 888, and all that token to our local browser. We are able to do that because we are connecting through our Windows PowerShell. So we copy that value, and there we go. We have Jupyter Notebook already set up. This is exciting because we can start using Python code inside a notebook in our Explorer. How awesome is that? Okay, now we are ready to analyze our internet connectivity created by the ping utility. I have an example file called example.ping. So the first requisite is to have the right header. So I'm going to delete the first row. We need to delete the first row and add the right header. So I'm going to copy that header. I just did a typo error there. It is taking a little bit a while to copy those values. I'm copying from other source. And there we go. Yes, there we go. Date, time, size, bytes from IP, ICMP, TTL, RTT, and MS are the right header. So make sure that you have as the first row in your file. Okay, time to have fun with coding with Pandas and Python. First, we need to import our libraries. And as we can see, we don't have any errors, but if you have, maybe you probably need to install any additional package, but that's not the case. Then we need to import our example ping file, which it is separated every field by space. We do that, we don't have any errors, that is good. And now we're going to see what is my data frame. There we go, we have our data frame in Pandas, and as you can see, it is more than 80,000 rows. That is an insane quantity of information to analyze. We can do the same with Excel, but with that huge amount of information, that could be really challenging. But with Pandas and Pythons, that is a complete different history. Anyways, we are interested in two special fields. First, the datetime and the time response, the average time response. So we need to manipulate our data frame, which we have date and time in separate columns. We need to put together that. So for that we use Python syntax, especially the rstrip function. So with those 3 lines code of Python, we have our data frame modified. Here we go, we have the date time as we need with date and time together. Well, so we are almost ready to analyze our data. Then our data frame will have NA values by default when we don't have any response from internet. When we have response from internet, we have those values that we can see on the screen, 18 milliseconds, 17 milliseconds, but when we don't have any values, we'll have NA values. That's why we need to fill those NA values with 2000 milliseconds, and they need to be in a float variable. We do that, we don't have any errors, and we need to see again our data frame, but only interested in those two values, datetime and RTT, which is the time response from our pings. So we create a new data frame. We see that new data frame, and there we go, we have the datetime as in a single column and the round trip time values in milliseconds. Almost ready to have the graphs, but we still need to modify our data frame, which in this case it is pings version 2. We're going to analyze our data frame every 5 minutes. That's why we have now we have every second, but we need to analyze every 5 minutes and to decide if the connection on those 5 minutes were good or we had any trouble. For that, we use the resample function of Python. Now we have a new data frame, and there we go. We have every 5 minutes an average of time response, which is when it is less than 60 milliseconds, we are actually really good with that. Okay, ready almost to start working with graphs, but we need to index those values. I mean, index from 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. For that, we need to reset our index values in our data frame. So there we go, we have our index values from 0, 1, 2, 3, and now we can start making some graphs with those values. And remember, more than 80,000 rows. That is really insane quantity of information. Ready to create our figures. We decide the size of our figures. I decided that 15 per 5 pixels is a really good measure. Then we can put some labels like the title. In this case, I'm going to write pings example. We can also have labels on our axis, like x-axis would be every 5 minutes, so our minutes, that would be nice, and our Y label milliseconds with a font size of 20. What else we need to make our graphs? We need to have our date and format for date in format of hours and milliseconds. Then we have something else to finally to have that desired graph. For that, copying the plot that show function, and we're ready to have the graph and to analyze more than 80,000 values in just a view. In a couple of seconds, we can know how was our internet connectivity for a long period of time. Okay, conclusions. One way to analyze our internet connectivity is through Ping's utility, saying that every single second, hey, how is our connection? It is good? Yes. Then the next second, how is our connection? It is good? And then we keep doing that. In the best case scenario, we can do that every single second, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Then we will have a huge amount of information, which tools like Excel will not be able to handle that quantity of information. That is why we need to use utilities like Pandas and Pythons, because for a single day we can have more than 80,000 results to analyze, and we need to see those results in just one site. From a whole week, we just need to see one in 2 seconds to know how is the internet connection, how was the internet connection in that period, to maybe to do some claim to our internet provider. All right, thank you so much. See you next post.